Android and Google Play are very special to Google, not just because of the 2 billion users that use the services every month, but because of the sheer opportunities that they enable for developers like you. Now, the opportunities have massive ranges, from things that could be very commercially successful for things that could be things like entertainment and every other thing that you can think of, but more importantly, to things that can actually help users into their day-to-day lives. Things like healthcare, education, financial inclusion, mental wealth, and well-being. Google Play is absolutely committed to help developers like you who are either building or intend very soon to solve for one of these problems and more with the right best practices and the right ammunition. To help you better, today we have a few very special guests. We have Maxime Mai, who's a partner development manager with our New York office, who leads the social impact initiative for Google worldwide. And we are also joined by two very special friends. We have Joe Agarwal, who's the founder of Wysa, an app dedicated to mental health. And we have Ishan Nadkarni, who's the founder of Impact, an app that's making India fit and also making India happy. Now, without further ado, to give you a lot more about what we plan to do for you, I'm going to hand over to Maxime, who'll tell you a lot more about how Google Play can help you. Over to you, Maxime.
Thanks, Karen. I'm excited to be here this morning. My name is Maxime, and I'm based in New York City, and I focus on managing our relationships with social impact app developers. First, I'd like to extend a big thank you to all of you who have submitted questions. We have tailored today's presentation to address the most frequent topics. Here's our agenda for today. First, I'd like to introduce you to the topic of social impact apps and games on Play using 4 inspirational examples of developers who have created impact around the world. Next, I'll share the results of some internal research to give you a better understanding of smartphone user social impact needs and interests in India as well as internationally. Third, I'll give an overview of best practices to help you build better social impact apps and games. So let's jump right in. Social impact describes the ability of people, companies, organizations, or products to create positive change in the communities that they touch. Social impact apps and games generally fall into 2 broad categories. Those that directly deliver mobile-based solutions to users with needs, and those that are designed to generate awareness or support for organizations that work towards solving local or global issues. Social impact developers cover a huge diversity of problems and causes, and a little bit more on that a little bit later. Making money is generally not the main objective of a social impact app, but at the same time, nonprofits make up only a small percentage of social impact developers. To give you a better understanding of the breadth of apps focusing on social impact on Android, we're going to roll a brief video.
The large earthquake in Pakistan in 2013 was the first time I heard about a big earthquake. I was so shocked by the number of people affected, and I just really wanted to help. I started app development when I was 17, which was before I studied at university. I realized my skill of developing apps would really help. So I decided to make my earthquake alerts, which distributes information about an earthquake much faster than any other source. Every second counts when it comes to an earthquake. Some said that the app has saved their lives and they've been able to get in touch with family members quickly. It's amazing that you really can build something to help a large number of people from anywhere in the world, from a city or from a very rural place like this.
Growing up in Nigeria, my friends and I found preparing for exams to be boring and not very efficient. So I decided to build an app that helps students prepare for exams in a fun and personalized way. PrepUp is different from the traditional studying methods. It's a gamified way of learning. and also you get personalized lessons that are tailored to individual students.
Using Prep-Up was like playing a game. It made things far easier for me. I did well in the exams. Then I got 264. That's a pretty high score.
I feel really good creating a product that people use every day and is helpful to them. Currently, we've helped over 120,000 students across Africa. We couldn't have done this without the reach of the Android platform.
Hey, Ari, do we have any basil? Can you pick me a little bit?
I grew up in a loving and supportive household that sometimes had trouble putting food on the table. So we've always been aware of thinking about how to set a budget and how to really make things stretch.
There are 42 million Americans who are on food stamps right now, and most of them have smartphones and use the internet.
Our app, Fresh EBT, helps people who receive food stamp benefits in the United States manage their balance and to become more financially healthy. It also helps people find grocery recipes and new jobs. It means a lot to us as a team that we are actually meeting real user needs through the app.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
And that's one of the things that's most rewarding about the work that we do is we get to see the daily impact of building a product that really meets the needs of those who are really seeking help.
Force is an app that helps users to stay focused on what's more important in their life. People would put down their phones for a while and wait for the tree to grow up. Each virtual tree in the Force app represents focus time for the user.
After the app was released, we got some user feedback about if they can plant real trees in the app. And that's when we found Trees for Future. Trees for Future is a nonprofit organization. They mainly plant trees on Earth. They also help the local farmers to plant different type of crops so that they can feed their families better and have a better lives. We came to Kenya today for the first time to visit Trees for Future and the farmers and farms.
This one, we call it Podo Tree.
It's amazing that a simple app can achieve such things and bring positive impact to society thanks to all of our users.
As you can see, apps and games can be designed to deliver solutions to many different social impact problems. However, I tend to observe particular interest and investment in areas such as health, education and economic opportunity, financial health and inclusion, emergency response, as well as personal safety and security. These investments are paying off for social impact developers. I track hundreds of Android apps and games from around the world that focus on social impact. During the first half of this year, these titles achieved new user install growth of 80% year over year, far outpacing the 20% year over year growth reported by App Annie in Q2 2018 for all apps and games on Play. I would like you guys to take a note of this short link here if you are developing a social impact focused app or game, because we would like to hear from you. I'll show this link a couple of times during this presentation, so you'll have another chance to write this down. But if you are developing a social impact focused app or game, please let us know. Up next, I'll share the results of some internal research to give you a better understanding of smartphone user social impact needs and interests in India, as well as internationally. This overview is intended to provide guidance for your strategy decisions and product investments. These insights are based on a survey, on a 10-minute online survey that we conducted in 9 countries, including India, the US, UK, France, Germany, Japan, Korea, and Brazil, and Mexico. The survey comprises responses from about 9,000 smartphone users, with roughly 1,000 responses from each country. The first key insight that I would like you guys to take away is that 62% of all smartphone users surveyed have experienced at least one social impact need. And 54% of those relied on a mobile app or mobile resource to obtain help. First, let's look at the types of social impact needs that smartphone users experienced. Globally, covering an unexpected cost was most frequent, but in India, lack of financial access and inclusion was most common. It's also interesting to observe that the proportion of respondents who experienced no social impact needs was lower in India compared to the global average. When relying on their smartphones to address their social impact needs, users in India came out top. Depending on the specific situation or need, between half and 2/3 of users in India reported to have relied on their smartphone for help. At a high level, users are not just using their smartphone to deal with their social impact needs, but they're also very open to relying on a mobile app or solution in social impact related situation. The strongest consideration for smartphones occurs with time-sensitive or personal safety-related issues. However, health, education, and financial-related situations seem less likely to attract mobile users in India, with many preferring not to rely on their smartphone to address those social impact needs. We also received a number of questions about charitable donation in the context of social impact apps and games. So I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about giving. Our survey results indicate that 31% of smartphone users in India have received a charitable donation or assistance, which is the highest proportion in the global survey. At the same time, smartphone users in India are also incredibly generous relative to the global average. 55% of survey respondents in India made a charitable contribution in the last 12 months, which is the second highest level in the survey. Finally, 34% of respondents reported to have donated via mobile at least once in the last 12 months. This was the highest level out of all the countries that we surveyed. All right, so let's jump into the best practices. I'm now going to introduce 5 best practices to help you achieve sustainable growth for your social impact app or game on Android and on Google Play. To start, let's look at how you formulate an app strategy to drive and measure impact. The first 2 questions that you should be grappling with is to clearly define who your target audience is, and then decide how you are going to create impact for these target users. This will have a big impact on finding or on defining what the right technology is that you're going to use to create impact. Some questions that you should be asking yourself is whether the app is delivering the social impact solution, or if the app is a gateway to a service or product. Another important topic is to estimate the expected frequency of use and the average lifetime of a user. An app that is installed will be accessible from the home screen and will be very well positioned for high frequency use. Many users will also search for your service through the web, as well as through app stores, and when prompted to install a native app, may not have enough space on their device or may not have the bandwidth needed to download it. So be mindful of those considerations when deciding between a native app and a website to deliver your solution. It's also worth worth it to investigate the approaches of other organizations in your social impact space and consider whether their approaches have established any behavior patterns or user preferences. And then you can align your strategy with those established preferences. Another key question to ask is, does a native app generate sufficient added value to justify the increase in investment and maintenance costs needed relative to what a web-only or a non-mobile solution would require? A second important topic is that you really invest into knowing your metrics. It is very important that you'll be able to measure the impact that your app creates for users and for communities. To measure this, you may need to combine two indicators. You may need to rely on traditional indicators of app use and engagement, such as active users and sessions per users. And you may need to rely on social impact specific indicators, such as literacy scores or health test results or savings rate. It may be possible to use your app to collect some of these impact data, but statistical best practices may require you to commission or to carry out independent research in partnerships with community organizations or academic institutions to validate your outcomes. And this is a really important point, because your ability to clearly track the social impact that your app creates in the medium and long term has implications for your ability to secure funding and support for your project, and to provide valuable input for your product roadmap. So make sure that you don't just rely on traditional metrics of app success, but that you're also looking at social impact indicators and learning how to measure those in order to secure funding and to improve your roadmap and to improve your product decisions. If you are delivering social impact solutions in an app or game at a high scale or potentially global scale, this will require a mix of skills that you may not be instantly familiar with, especially if you have a humanitarian or a development background. So let's look at some of the things that you should consider and do to build a winning social impact app or game team. I'm now going to take you through a couple of the key skill sets that you will need to create a team. The first thing that you will have to do is find the right subject matter expert. So deep subject matter expertise in the space that you are trying to solve or that you're developing for is critical, because you'll be required to translate proven mechanisms, past experiences, and key insights from the field that you are trying to address to a mobile setting, and that might not have been done before. And you also need to balance the context and social impact needs of the intended target audience. The second thing, or the second range of skills, will be to acquire Android development skills. So if you are new to Android development or to mobile development in general, you might want to start with the Google Play Academy for app success. So this is an online tool with, I think, now 10 learning paths, all related to app development and app success. And that is a good start, I think, that teaching you Android development skills. You might also want to consult the best practices section on the Android developer portal, which contains insights on a wide range of topics ranging from Android Studio development to runtime permissions and Firebase analytics. If you don't have mobile development experience, you might consider using Flutter, which is an easy and fast way to build beautiful mobile apps. It has the tools and libraries to help you bring your idea to life on Android and across other platforms. The fourth set of skills will be user research, interaction design, and product strategy skills. These are key to define the direction of your app and coming up with a good product strategy. Finally, another skill set that you will want to have on your team or that you will want to develop for yourself is online marketing and user acquisition skills. And I will talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Many social impact apps and games, much like other social impact projects that are non-digital or non-mobile, rely on a variety of grants from foundations, governments, and maybe companies for funding. And you're going to be funding everything from research to development to engineering, operations, as well as user acquisition. It is essential to secure funding for both go-to-market strategies as well as continuous app improvements. And this seems like a pretty basic thing, but it's a trap or a mistake that I see a lot of social impact startups or social impact developers make. I'm going to explain this a little bit. So why do you need to pay a lot of attention to securing funding for sort of long-term go-to-market strategies? The reason for that is that app distribution or app go-to-market is a highly competitive field, and many social impact apps compete for user attention, for screen time, with an almost infinite supply of commercial apps and games. It is therefore critical for success to socialize the idea of setting aside funds for distribution and marketing with funders of your projects. And I say this is critical that you do this early because a lot of funding organizations don't have experience funding mobile products or digital projects. And so they may not know that to be successful with a social impact app, you're going to have to figure out user acquisition, and go-to-market strategy will cost money. So factor that into your funding plans early on. The second thing that I see a lot of developers getting wrong is that they don't put aside funds to pay for continuous app development. Now, essential to success on mobile development is the iterative nature of app and game development. The reason is that no first-time app or game launch results in a perfect product that doesn't require subsequent updates. Instead, successful apps are the results of a steady stream of incremental improvements that are tested and analyzed over the course of months and years. Consequently, it's very important that funding for social impact apps and game projects be structured in such a way that you allow for iterative product development that enables your team to launch a minimum viable product and then to improve it in subsequent development cycles. And I just wanted to stress this. A lot of teams make this mistake. They think that they've launched the perfect product and they've only factored in their funding for one round of development. And so once they launch, the app stays in that state, in the state that they launch, because they don't have any more funding left over. Your app or game will also compete for customer mindshare with some of the best commercial products in the market. I mentioned that just a few minutes ago. Quality issues such as low stability, high battery usage, and cutting corners on design or user experience will significantly reduce your app's ability to create impact, because your target audience or your target users that are used to very high product quality will be more likely to churn and find alternative solutions to their social impact needs. And so it is vital that you pay attention to the next couple of slides with best practices that will help you focus on app excellence for all users. The first area I want to bring to your attention is Android Vitals, which is an initiative by Google to improve the stability and performance of Android devices. So when an opted-in user runs your app or any app, their Android device logs the various metrics, including data about your app stability, app startup time, battery usage, render time, and permission denials. The Google Play console then aggregates this data and displays it on your Android Vitals dashboard. The dashboard then highlights things like crash rate, app not responding rate, excessive wake-ups, and stuck wake locks. These are the core vitals that developers should pay attention to. When an app exhibits bad behavior in core vitals, it will negatively affect the user experience in your app and is also likely to result in bad ratings and as well as poor discoverability on the Play Store. So it's very important that you pay attention to that area of app excellence. The second area I want to highlight in this section is material design, which is an adaptable system of guidelines, components, and tools that support best practices of user interface design on Android as well as on the web. Material design is widely used by Android developers, and it shapes user expectations on our platform about the look and feel of apps, which is why we recommend that all Android developers pay close attention to material guidelines in order to consistently delight users. Material design also enables faster design iteration and shortens development times because we've introduced new tools such as the theme editor, icon library, as well as color tools to make it easy to customize your design and share work across teams. The final area I want to highlight under app excellence is accessibility. So at Google, we are committed to providing developers with the tools, guidance, and support to promote inclusive app and game experiences for as many people as possible, and in particular for users with disabilities. To support you in that effort, we created a guide to accessibility on Android, where you'll find an easy-to-follow introduction to the topic alongside links to using material design to support accessibility needs and best practices for developing more accessible apps. A crucial topic in accessibility is testing your app for accessibility. We have published, as part of the accessibility guidelines, we have published a Getting Started guide that highlights the importance of combining manual, user, and automated testing to find usability issues that you might have otherwise missed. So a very simple piece of advice here is when you're testing your app, switch on one of the accessibility services, such as a screen reader, so Google Talkback, and just try to use your app with an accessibility service on and see how it goes. Of course, it's always better to ask a user that is comfortable with using screen readers to test your app, so you're getting more real-life feedback. The fifth best practice I want to talk about is mastering distribution challenges. Effective distribution ensures that your app or game ends up in the hands of the intended audience or users. Distribution is a key success factor on mobile, and lack of awareness or planning can significantly reduce the likelihood of achieving your impact goals. I'm going to talk about 4 topics that all social impact developers should master. Launching well is a critical skill that will enable you to minimize any risks associated with bringing to market an entirely new app, as well as introducing new features or incremental improvements to an existing product. And there are a couple of easy steps to follow. First, we have the launch checklist, which helps you to avoid common pitfalls and take full advantage of the awesome support features built into Google Play. So just head over to developersandroid.com and maybe print out the launch checklist, and then every time you go through a major launch, make sure you go and tick off all the steps. Second thing I want to talk about is beta testing your app with real users, which helps you gather invaluable feedback before you publish a major update or make any big changes. The key here is that you need to test consistently, which significantly reduces the chances of disappointed users leaving negative ratings and reviews on your Play detail page. Another effective way to decrease the risk of new launches is to take full advantage of the automated Google Play pre-launch reports. Every time you upload an APK to the Play console, Google Play automatically identifies crashes, performance issues, and accessibility issues, as well as security vulnerabilities, before any real users interact with your new product. All you have to do is go to the pre-launch reports section and review those reports before you decide to publish a new APK. And that way you can avoid your APK with bugs getting into the hands of users and causing bad user experiences, uninstalls, and bad ratings. The second topic I want to talk about is creating a compelling Play Store listing. So don't assume that potential users who hear about your app through word of mouth or other channels do not also value a listing that conveys thoughtfulness and trustworthiness before they decide to install. We've created an introductory guide that discusses best practices for things such as app icons, screenshots, descriptions, and reviews. But you shouldn't rest on your laurels, because even a great listing can be improved further. Store listing experiments on Google Play let you A/B test changes to your store listing on subsets of your users, so that you can choose improvements that improve your install conversion rate. And you're not just making guesses here, but your decisions will be backed up by actual data and experiments. So make sure you read our Getting Started guide for store listing experiments. The next best practice I want to talk about is our Build for Billions guide. The reason is that distribution on the Google Play Store enables you to reach the largest mobile audience in the world and deliver your social impact solution to incredibly diverse groups of app and game users. Our Build for Billions guide helps you build apps that are delightful and functional anywhere in the world. It provides advice on handling mixed connectivity environments, building for a large device range, providing users with data controls, and using battery efficiently. We've also created resources to help you get started with localizing your app for new markets by researching target languages and locales, as well as translating your app, your store listing, and other assets. Finally, I'd like to remind you that you may have to look beyond the store to reach key user groups for your social impact app. Our research shows that user recommendations, for example, are the most important discovery channel for 4 out of the 6 social impact categories that we surveyed. This insight is a key success factor for many popular or fast-growing social impact apps that I've seen in the wild or that I work with. So make sure that you're not just focused on store distribution, but that you are taking advantage of all the distribution channels, such as recommendations, social media, PR, blogs, as well as search to distribute your social impact apps. And that is almost it. I just wanted to give you guys a quick recap of what we covered and what we've learned. So we've talked about the strong user demand for social impact apps and the high install growth of social impact apps that's outpacing commercial apps and games. I also introduced you guys briefly to the diverse user needs and interest around social impact for smartphone users and covered 5 best practices for app success. So you should be focusing on driving and measuring impact. And to do that, you have to build a mixed skills team that includes a subject matter expertise, engineering expertise, product expertise, as well as marketing and user acquisition expertise. And if you don't already have that on your team, you need to acquire those skills. I talked about making sure that you fund both go-to-market as well as continuous development of your app, and that you balance those 2 investments. I also stressed the importance of prioritizing app excellence. And I talked a little bit about addressing the various distribution challenges that you might face as a developer. Finally, I wanted to pull up on the screen our nomination form. So if you have, or if you're developing a social impact focused app or game, please let us know. We're very interested to hear from you. We won't be able to get back to everyone, but we will look at every nomination. And please note down this this short link here, and you'll find the form there. So that's it from me. Thank you very, very much for your time this morning. It's been a pleasure. Today, we're, as mentioned before, today we're also joined by our partners, Wysa and Impact, to hear directly from them about their inspirational journeys. So, Jo, over to you.
Thank you, Maxime. Hello, everyone. Like many of you, I'm somebody who started with very little idea about where I'm going to end up, but with one passion, which was to change how mental health happens using technology. I didn't quite understand whether how I would do that, but I did know that technology had to be a part of the solution, not just a part of the problem. Let me just explain the problem a little bit before I move on to say what we did in Wysa. Mental health is something that many of you would have experienced at either a personal level or somebody close to you suffering from depression or anxiety at some point in your lives. WHO says that 1 in 4 people suffer from mental illness. And currently, in a country like India, for instance, with over 1 billion people, you have 5,000 psychologists, and even they are underbooked. What that means is that people are not ready to seek help. And when they do seek help, they have to overcome barriers of telling their family, being labeled as somebody with mental health issues. And it's expensive. Even in countries like the UK, or Canada or Singapore, where public health is free, the wait list for a mental health professional can be as long as a year long. Imagine being seriously depressed and having to wait a year before you can see a therapist. Having seen this kind of issues at a very personal level, we had started beginning to say something can be done using technology. Our hypotheses to begin with were quite wrong, but we ended up with understanding what we needed to do. We needed to use technology to or create an app probably to just massively scale reach and engagement, that in ways where people will actually engage with their mental health efficiently without a million new therapists, because there just aren't any, and still be able to bridge. Our vision was to bridge the gap between, on the one hand, having something really friendly to use, easy to use, intuitive, like a WhatsApp or a Google Maps that becomes a utility, but at the same time has the clinical efficacy that a hospital or a doctor or a therapist would actually say, yes, this works. We wanted it to be grounded in actual research and trials and so on. With that vision, we set out and began to look at AI. Very specifically, if you're trying to scale anything, you begin to see that a face-to-face therapy session, a single therapist can handle about 50 patients. While right now, Wysa, as an AI bot, which has one therapist helping us write various techniques and validating everything that Wysa says, reaches 500,000 people. And somewhere in between, it's possible for a blend of Wysa and a real coach to provide support to at a ratio of 1 therapist to 500 people. So the model of Wysa was to be able to provide an early intervention to high-risk populations, people who are young, transitioning to adulthood, people who are in their first job, going through anxiety, stress. Paramedics are using this at 3 a.m. when they have nobody to talk to, and getting a first level support with AI. And then maybe talking to a coach on the Wysa platform. And some of those people who absolutely need it would go on to real therapists in face-to-face sessions. So far with Wysa, we've had about 40 million conversations. Wysa is about 2 years old now. And we've had 40 million conversations with 600,000 users. The growth has been purely organic. So it's been purely people talking about Wysa because it helps them, and therapists recommending it, schools recommending it. We have not done inorganic paid conversions so far. The reviews are really good. It's been used in over 30 countries, and 20 people, probably that's the most important metric for us, 20 people have written to us to say this little penguin, this AI bot is a little penguin, has actually saved their life. And that to us, as many of you as social entrepreneurs, it will make the biggest difference to know that you've actually done something that you set out to do, solved a problem. But the journey wasn't quite as simple as we decided to use AI and we built it. In fact, we went through 3 pivots, and what I call 3 pivots and a double down. We started out thinking that we're going to do this with wearables because we wanted to use sensors to detect whether somebody was depressed or not and if they were okay. And we created an app plus wearable combination that we never launched because midway through the process, all the sensors that we were building into a wearable started becoming commonly available in really cheap Android phones. And there was no need for us to use the sensor data from a wearable or force people to wear wearables. So technology actually moved faster than our development could. Then we created something called Stay Close. The idea then, our hypothesis was that you could actually detect how somebody was, and you could create a small circle of family and friends, and each of you would know how the other person was using the sensor data from their phone. We launched Stay Close and learned most of our lessons in this launch. We did a lot of work on UX design. We did a lot of trials. We spent about 10 months developing it. And in another 10 months, we acquired about 10,000 users. We tried inorganic marketing, a whole bunch of different things, but it did not catch on its own. And we kept trying to figure out how to make Stay Close grow, as opposed to understanding what was really going on. And I'll talk about some of those lessons we learned. Somewhere along the way, we removed the family from Stay Close. What people did not want other people to know how they were. And we added a simple chatbot and used the passive sensing to be able to detect depression in a clinical setting. Even with a simple chatbot, we found that actually we could detect depression to 90% accuracy, but nobody who was actually being detected as depressed was still seeing a therapist. It was only then we realized that the friction between a person actually seeing a therapist is so high. They have to actually tell other people that they have a problem. They don't want to share. They don't have the energy to be able to go and seek help, even if a doctor recommends it. And at that point, we stopped trying to detect whether somebody was depressed, but we realized that just chatting with AI within that chatbot was actually helping people. And we started building Wysa somewhere around July. We had spent so much time building Stay Close, but it was a 2-month sprint. We worked day and night, a small team. And in October 2016, we actually launched Wysa. And in the next 2 months, we reached 10,000 users, more than we actually overtook the number of users we had with Stay Close within 2 months of launching Wysa. And then we began to realize what product market fit actually feels like. So at that point, we then decided to double down on it. We removed all the passive sensing. We removed every other app. We closed every other product we were building, and we just focused on Wysa. I'm just going to tell you 4 things that we learned along the way. They're very fundamental. First of all, we learned to see rather than look, to interrogate what's happening with your product. So with Stay Close, what we used to do was we would look for, how do I get more people to share this? How do I get more people to use this? We weren't actually seeing why people are not using it or sharing it. So it's extremely important for us to really see what's happening. People were very interested in improving their mental health, but we were not being able to realize that people didn't want to share with anybody else how they were feeling. As we started using Wysa, we learned from that, and we actually saw that instead of the techniques, instead of all the things that we thought people will want, people just wanted to be heard. They wanted to be given more free text options. The more we made Wysa look like an app, the more people would push back. So we began to listen to what users were saying, and today's version of Wysa, we would very much say, is as much designed by the user groups as it has been by us. The second thing is very closely related with that interrogation, is that what we hadn't done in the first product that we built, but we did in Wysa, is that we actually created a separate channel of communication between our users and us into our product. Of course, Wysa is a chatbot, so people chat with Wysa about a lot of things, but it's completely anonymous, and most of the things that people talk to Wysa about are very private. So by the time it comes to us, the sentences have been de-linked, and you can't really understand what's going on and what is helping and not helping a user. But we created a channel where people could write to us from within Wysa and engage with the team. And in various places, we got different types of feedback, what's working, what's not working throughout the process. I think at least 1,000 messages we get every month from users of Wysa telling us what we should and shouldn't do. But the one probably most important message we received was, you'll see the app version in this slide is 29. Right now we are on app version 206. So this was May last year, and we've been iterating the app since. But May last year we got a mail from within Wysa to us to report an issue, but somebody who was 13 telling us that it was helping her hold on to herself. And this was the first such mail that we got of somebody saying that it's saving their life. It gave us such a tremendous burst of energy. It allowed us to have the confidence to shut down everything else. It allows us to double down on Wysa. And that energy, when you do something for social impact, you get energy from your users. And you will need that energy because you'll have lots of failures and lots of things that go wrong. So make sure that you have that direct source of energy coming into your inbox on what works. And also when something doesn't work, see what's happening and understand whether what you can do about it. Going forward, one thing that we did wrong in the last few things was we outsourced. So I wouldn't say you can't outsource, but I would definitely say that don't look at every constraint and try to outsource as a way of solving it. When you outsource, it's very hard to quickly prototype. So even with very basic tools that are available, even if you don't know technology too well, it's possible to quickly prototype what you want to do and test it with users. So try to do this on your own, within your own team. Have in-house people, because that whole cycle of improving with user feedback is not possible to do with an outsourced team. And lastly, think of whatever you're building like poetry rather than prose. Problem solvers like us tend to try to solve the entire problem with one product. You know, the entire issues will not get solved with one app. But see what is one thing that you do well. What is that one line that will make a real difference, and do it really, really well. In Wysa, we listen well. We help people talk about things which they don't have anybody else to talk to. That's one thing that we want to do better and better every day. We can't solve all of mental health, and we've made peace with that. I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you from Team Wysa.
And we can hear you. Hello? Can you hear me?
Over to you, Sean.
So thank you, Maxime, and thank you, Joel. That was inspiring, and there was a lot of insightful stuff that you guys have shared. So I am Ishan. I'm co-founder of Impact, and Impact is a fitness plus charity app. So Joe just talked about the mental health side of it. So we are trying to, on one side, get users physically fit and help nonprofits along the way. So before I get into what we are and what we stand for, I'd just like to tell what our true inspiration is. And for everyone who's listening, our true inspiration actually lies even before any of us were born. So 90 years ago, India was not a free country. And the biggest social problem that our ancestors or our freedom fighters had to solve was freedom. So March 1930, there was a passionate old man who decided to walk for a cause. That cause is called Dandi March, and that man is called Mahatma Gandhi now. So he showed the world that talking about it or being on the problem solve side of it is not the solution. You need to actually get out and act. So that's what our true inspiration is, and we have just gotten that message on the digital front. So impact really means important actions, aim from important and act from actions. And we believe that important actions that people could take are walking, jogging, donating, volunteering for a cause they care. So that's what impact is all about. So it's a very simple fitness app where every kilometer you cover raises money for charity. So you can consider it to be a Nike for a cause, Nike app, or a Strava app for a cause, or you can consider it to be a charity app which does not tell you to give money or give your time, but simply tells you to blend it in your life. So now, just to speak about how it works, the app has a simple screen wherein there is a cause. There is a cause card, which is essentially a match made between a non-profit and a corporate. So there is a company who is sponsoring that cause on your and our sweat's behalf. So till now, our community, so this is how the app screens work. So you have to pick a cause that is close to your heart and then go for a walk or a jog. And after that, it's like a normal fitness app for you. So it will count your calories, it will count your distance. And for every kilometer, that company will raise 10 rupees for a charity of your cause. So till now, in the last 2 years, we have our community has covered 3.1 million, that is 31 lakh kilometers. That is as much as 5 round trips from the earth to the moon and back. And we have raised 3.1 crore rupees for 25 different non-profits, who we then go out and volunteer with our community of people. And on the other side, on the fitness side of things, we have a community of 70,000 users who have lost around 300,000 kgs of extra weight, which is the weight of 100 elephants. So we made India slightly more fitter and slightly more charitable. So now let me just speak about, so I am a developer and a marketer at heart. And even though we are on the social impact side, we do compete with normal apps and phones and games for space on Google Play Store, App Store and alike. And this is what I believe. So this is actually a challenge as well as a power that we have, that in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where there is need, wants, desires and purpose, a social impact app lies on the purpose realm, whereas everyone else lies on the desire realm of money, power, and fame. So we need to actually unlock the purpose of the meaningful sentiment in our users and attack that. And I believe that we can only do it when we listen, when we see, and when we connect to users' hearts. So through the last 3 years, the biggest learning for us as a fitness plus charity app is to get as much feedback and listen to it from our users. And Google has helped us a lot. Essentially, this is what I call in-house. So we call Google as the catalyst on steroids, who have just enhanced our senses. So to speak of feedback, we listen to a lot on Play Store, and every feedback, even if it's a 1-star or a 5-star, is given a response to. In fact, so before you started listening to the feedback, we had a flow which was slightly different. And then one of our users said that I need to know the beneficiary or the non-profit that has been helped by my today's workout. So we added a thank you screen, which just boosted our app ratings from 4.4 to 4.8 in a matter of 2 months. So that was a brilliant insight from a user, which just jumped our ratings, which also got us funded. So if you listen, you also get funded in a couple of months' time. So that is our side of the story. The second thing is, because we have linked fitness to a charitable cause, people walking and jogging genuinely is of deep concern to us. So we have a data of all the workouts that users do, and we kind of have eyes at our back end, which is powered by Google Maps. So we know on maps which user is walking and jogging at which speed, like you would do when you're traveling on on Google Maps, the speed of the user, and that makes us improve our algorithms well for our users to in the end have a greater experience. So if you're fast, it will say it seems you're faster than Usain Bolt. If you're walking or jogging, it will congratulate you, etc. And the third thing is, again, being a fitness app, accurate counting is like heartbeat to us. So this is from the developer side. There where Google has helped us is we count or compare with the Google Fit APIs, and there's a very recent Google Activity Transition Recognizer, which has helped us differentiate between a cyclist and a walker, a car mover or a train mover and a walker, which helps us give the most accurate count for a user's kilometers. So that is on the development side. And on the marketing side or the growth side, we have just we have actually tried a lot of channels through the last 2-3 years, be it radio, be it offline, be it word of mouth. But what has worked most for us, and it also works for a million more apps, is Play Store. And again, here I'd like to stress on the point that we are very lucky or privileged to be on the purpose side. So back in the day, we used to use these keywords on Google Play, which were linked around fitness or wellness, whereas we learned that people in India searched for weight loss or feed a kid or hungry or charity. So now we've modified our entire keyword search to match what our user base likes to listen to or actually types on Google Play. And that has helped us a lot. So that has been our journey. Actually, quite frankly, after this presentation, I will actually go visit a non-profit wherein we are doing this unique referral program, wherein if you call a friend, we will feed a hungry kid in need. So we are calling it the kindest referral programs, which was also yet another step for us to take impact. So hopefully you be a part and help us feed as many kids as we can along the way. So that was our journey with Impact. And over to you, Maxime.
Ishan and Joe, thank you very much for sharing your stories. We appreciate you joining us today. I have a final reminder for the audience to please use the link on the screen to submit your social impact focus apps or game. We hope to see you soon and to hear from you soon as well.